Number 500. Didn't think I'd ever get there. I started the channel just wanting to document my restoration of an IMSAI computer, and then I kind of enjoyed doing that and started doing other videos, and I got encouragement from you guys. So first of all, thanks to everybody who watches my videos. Thanks to the subscribers. Thanks to the patrons. Just thanks to everybody. And it's helped me out during this lockdown. It's giving me something to do. It's giving me reasons to go out in the garage and do crazy things and have a great time. So 500. I wrestled a lot with what video should I make for number 500, and I thought about certain things, and then I decided that maybe it was time for a personal note. And I had certain things to talk about. I've had health issues, but you don't guys want to be bored with that. So I thought I'd show or tell an amusing tale about my ancestry and me ending up selling California for $633. So we'll get to that. So who am I? Where am I? I'm not going to tell you who I am. I need to keep my personal life private, but I will tell you a little bit about where I am and where I came from. So let's start with a map. Everybody knows that I'm in Silicon Valley. Let's see, zoom out a bit. And where is Silicon Valley? It's in California. Where in California? Well, they call it Northern California, but San Francisco is right here. This is the San Francisco Bay, and Silicon Valley is right at the base of the bay, so Silicon Valley is right about there. Okay. So if you're not familiar with California, San Diego is way down at the very, very bottom. Los Angeles is over in here, and then there's a bunch of mountains. Okay, so lots of mountains here, and so this separate half at the bottom is kind of Southern California. Okay, so below the mountains here is Southern California, and then there's the Sierras, which are big tall mountains. So lots of mountains. So mountains go all the way like that. So lots of mountains. And then California used to be underwater. It used to be part of the ocean, and there was a big lake bed, and so in the middle of California is a big dry lake bed, and that's why we grow food really, really good, because we have all of this nice fertile land from ancient seabed. So like I said, Southern California. Northern California is generally described as San Francisco. So Northern California is kind of this section here. But what about all the stuff up at the top here? Isn't that Northern California? Isn't that Southern California? Well, most people say Northern California, Central California, Southern California, and they completely ignore the upper half. Well, guess where I'm from? I'm from up here. So we call it the real Northern California. It's famous for certain things. It's famous for redwood trees. So from about here up is all redwood trees. So lots and lots and lots of redwood trees. And if you haven't seen a redwood tree, you're missing out. When I was a kid, there were 6 redwood trees in my backyard. Lots and lots of redwood trees. I lived right next to a forest. I could just walk down the street and go into a forest forever and get lost. Very nice place to grow up. So it's very, very famous for its redwood trees. It's very, very famous for its marijuana. Humble homegrown. Anyway, really, really good area to grow pot. It's also famous in the old days for lumber because of the big redwood trees. So lots of lumber came out of here. Fishing came out of here. Used to be a whaling station. So it has a lot of old history. Now, one of the things California is famous for is the gold rush. So where was the gold? The gold is kind of mostly in this area here, so gold here. But there was some gold over here too. In fact, There's different types of gold. There's gold that you go dig a mine and you go underground and get it out. There's gold that just kind of lays on top of the river and you go grab nuggets and stuff like that. But there's one kind of gold called placer gold that's a very, very fine dust. And it's in the dirt. And so you take a big hose of water and you spray and you dissolve the dirt and then you extract the gold, called a placer mine. And when I say you get a big hose, I mean you get a really, really big hose and you actually wash entire mountains down. And so you destroy the land. You just completely destroy everything. You just obliterate an entire mountain to get the gold out of it. And one of those mines was way up here in Northern California where I grew up. So let's try to get a map here. This is going to be a crappy map. This map is, let me see, let me draw it in here. It's going to be, we're going to zoom into that little square right there. Okay, so we're Northern California, a very little small spot up in Northern California. Now, why is this spot in Northern California famous? Well, again, for the redwood trees. If you've ever been to Redwood National Park, this is Redwood National Park. Right? So this contains the tallest tree in the world. It's over 300 feet tall. And these are all very, 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 very tall trees and very, very, very old trees. And they only grow in this area of the United States, of the world. So this is Redwood National Park. And 10 miles to the east is a funny little town called Wichipec. And it's on a river. There's a river that comes down this way. And then the river goes up it this way. And it's called the Klamath River. And it's a great whitewater rafting, whitewater canoeing and stuff. A very, very nice river for that. There's a run of fish. There's fish that come up to spawn. This goes out to the ocean. Fish come to spawn. If you like steelhead trout, it's the premier fishing in the world. This river is called, like I said, called the Klamath River. And then it splits here and it goes south, a different river though. This is called the Trinity River. And at this Y intersection here, the Trinity River and the Klamath River, is this little town called Wichipec. And my uncle had a cabin over here. And anyway, there is an area here that has an Indian tribe called the Kuruk. And the Kuruk name means upriver. Okay, so from this corner, upriver is the Kuruk. And then downriver are the Yurok. So the Kuruk this way, the Yurok this way, and they meet in the center, and there was another tribe down here, Hupa. Anyway, Kuruk. And I am a native of the Kuruk Indians. I am by no means 100% Indian. I'm only 12%, or 1/12. I'm 8% Kuruk. But I have documented lineage, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, is about Native Americans, and in particular about the Kuruk tribe. And they're 10 miles away from these beautiful redwood trees and lots of trees, and this is famous for Bigfoot. The official Bigfoot sighting, the official video that everybody saw, that was a guy in a costume, was actually filmed like right here. So it's Bigfoot country, tall tree country, river. Anyway, Kuruk. Now, for a long time, the Kuruks just sat around and ate fish out of the river and acorns, and just kind of lived a peaceful life. It was a small tribe. About 1,200 natives in its heyday. That was the maximum of a population of Kuruks, 1,200. I'm not sure how many of the other tribes there were, but pretty small tribe. And so they were minding their own business until one day there was a gold rush. And guess what? This river was a great river to get lots of water out of. and make a really, really big hose and wash down mountains and get gold. So that was kind of done over here. A big hydraulic mine was put in. They washed out the mountain, destroyed the river, lots of gold. And at that point in time, some Denmark sent over a miner, a Danish miner, by the name of, well, I won't give his name. And he decided that he did what most of the others did, is kind of pillage the place. And the Native Americans were kind of destroyed. They were, I don't want to get into that story, but they were basically not treated well. And my great-great-great-grandmother was living there at the time. And a lot of the women were taken for various reasons. And mine shows up in a handwritten census of 1870. And she is here, and she has 6 children. 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm sorry, 5 children. She has 5 children. And so she is my great-great-great-grandmother, full-blooded Kuruk. And she had a daughter, Jane. And Jane is my great-great-grandmother. And she was 8 at the time. She had an older brother who was 9 at the time. And she was 24 at the time. So the guy from Denmark, quote, married her at age 15 and started having kids. And that's where I came from, at least that part of the family. So the United States decided to count Indians. They were called Indians back then. And this is the application for Jane, who was my great-great-grandmother. And so she had deceased at this point in time, but she was put on the record by her brother, I believe. Or maybe her son. Anyway, somebody. And so she was assigned a application number from the Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so she was documented. And her daughter, my grandmother, Hazel, was documented, and my father was documented. So these pieces of paper date to 1928. So in 1928, they took count, and so they have official numbers. So my great-great-grandmother has a number, my grandmother has a number, my father has a number. And then they took a count again for various reasons. They took another count in 1969. And 1969, they counted my father again, and they counted me. So this is my application. So there I am, Eureka, California, in Humboldt County. I was given a number. Why was I given a number? Why were these things filled out? Well, turns out that there was a war back when. Let's go back to my California map. Where's my California map? Here, this one. It's all drawn over now. But California used to be owned by Mexico. And so did Nevada, so did Utah, so did Arizona, so did Texas. Mexico had a big, big portion of the United States, and we wanted it. So we had a war, the Mexican-American War, and we won. And there was a treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and the Treaty of Guadalupe said, we'll give you all of this stuff, and we'll keep this stuff. So they kept Mexico, and they gave us California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, blah, 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 blah. If you add up all those things, whether they were part of the treaty or they were just sort of already being sort of taken over, like Texas is, whether you include it or not in that treaty is up to debate. But if you include all of those things that were occupied by Mexico, it is about 30% of the United States. So 30% of the United States used to be from Mexico, used to be owned by Mexico. But now it's all in the United States. It's not yet a state, but it's owned by the U.S., and it will later become states. And the Treaty of Guadalupe said, you get this stuff, but the Native Americans who are here get to keep their land, and they get to keep their language, and leave them alone. Which the U.S. government said, great, signed the document, and then quickly thereafter decided that wasn't such a good idea. So they created some laws, and they said, well, if you want to keep your land, if you think it is really your land, then you have to file some legal papers, and you must travel to San Francisco and go to a courtroom and stand in the courtroom and speak English and say that you own the property, and then maybe we'll give it back to you. So that's what they did, and they took all the land away from the Indians, and people were pissed. And so there was a lawsuit. And in 1972, the Indians won. Native Americans won, and they got money. And the U.S. government said, oh, so sorry, we will fix this situation and give you money. So part of this lawsuit, there were 60,000 Native Americans named in California, I being one of them. And in 1973, 74, I don't know, somewhere around in there, after the lawsuit, I received a check from the U.S. Treasury of the United States for $633 for, and written on the check, for the purpose of the, no, not for the purpose, for the purchase of California. So here's your $633 for the purchase of California. Thanks for playing our game. So I took my money and put it in the bank. It helped me pay for college, but I wish I had the land. Anyway, that's my story for the day. When I sold California for $633. So I'll end the video again, thanking everybody for watching my channel and sharing one of my prized possessions. This is an actual basket from the Kuruk tribe. Very high quality. They were known for their basket weaving. These were sold as tourist items in the 1920s. And so there was a few of them around, some better than others. This one was woven by a lady whose last name is Super, Trina Super. And the Super family is still active in the tribe, and still a name that people would recognize if they're familiar with the tribe. But the quality of the weaving is just phenomenal. They used baskets for cooking, and they made other types of baskets for storage. They made hats out of the material, and they made kind of cradles for the infants, kind of like little backpacks that we see moms wear today. They had Native American backpack kind of things for kids, and yeah, it's very, very cool.